To investigate the conditions, challenges, and areas of growth of early childhood development programs in Maine, Senate President Maddie Daughtry has been touring the state and speaking with educators, families, and others for input.
Grace Bradley was at the last stop in Searsport today.
Governor Janet Mills joined Senate President Maddie Daughtry Thursday morning as she concluded her Support Kids, Support Maine statewide tour of early childhood programs.
We have a crisis on our hands to make sure that all Mainers have access not only to affordable daycare and childcare, but also to quality pre-K.
Yeah. One of the biggest things is about affordability. We know that early childhood education is the workforce behind the workforce, and if we want our economy to be thriving, we need to make sure that we're not only investing in the best investment, Maine children, but also for the people who provide this incredible education.
Searsport Elementary School has expanded to include pre-K. Welcoming the cohort of 4-year-olds in, these students also get access to the programs and resources the school has.
Last year, prior to me coming to this district, the first month of school, they did not have a pre-K teacher in this building because they couldn't find one. And not because there aren't people out there, but the pay base is really different, especially for our Waldo County, our Head Start teachers. Their salary base is really, really different even than our school district salary base. There are no daycares beyond the pre-K classroom in our district.
You know, if you lose this institution, if you lose that child care provider, that amazing home care provider, if you lose them, then suddenly that area becomes unlivable for certain people.
So we made the approach of expanding facilities, expanding the number of slots, training up the workers, and stipends to protect those workers' incomes.
The big sort of focus of this tour is coming up with a bill. So we actually have a bill that just got through Legislative Council for next session to make sure that regardless of where your student is going to pre-K, that they have access to quality school meals and that the center doesn't have financial distress trying to provide that.
We are a district that has a very high rate of poverty and economic disparity. We know that good food, people that care about our students, and bringing them in can be helpful not just to the student but to their families and to our community.
Grace Bradley, WABI News, Searsport.